Okay, so ready for a deep dive today.
Always.
We are going to be uncovering those little hidden patterns. You know those connections where you're just like, wait,
yeah.
how does that work?
Yeah.
How are these things connected? And we're going to be diving into that today with all of the fictional excerpts and descriptions you guys sent in.
Yeah.
We got some intriguing ones this week.
It's interesting. You know, they're fictional.
Right.
But they deal with real human experiences, don't they? I mean, the anxieties, the desires, the burdens that these characters carry. And we see it kind of play out on the page.
And burdens, speaking of, that is something that really jumped out at me. This idea of inherited burdens, echoes of the past. These characters, they can't get away.
Oh, it's a classic theme. Sins of the fathers, the weight of expectation, it's all there. It's interesting, though, the spectrum of responses that we got this week to that idea.
Yeah, and we've got Dr. Hood,
Right.
Wisdom.pdf. He's holed up with his almost sacred library. Like, it's more of a museum than a place to actually read a book.
It's as though he's trying to contain the past.
Yeah.
To impose order on something that is inherently chaotic. But that rigidity, that need for control, what does it suggest? I don't know. It seems like there's a certain fragility beneath that.
Yeah, and then you've got the Duke of Exmoor in The Curse of the Golden Cross, who is absolutely, utterly convinced that he is doomed by this family curse.
Wow.
Talk about letting the past control your present. And then you've got Admiral Pendragon and the Doom of the Darnaways, practically a legend, because his family, they just keep getting shipwrecked. So he's constantly battling against fate. Who knows if he's going to be able to escape it. But I think it's interesting, too, though, that this idea of fighting against fate, when you look at the imagery that surrounds a lot of these characters, you know, the sea in Wisdom, the tower, this kind of looming tower in Darnaways.
Right.
They're both symbols of resistance, but they also represent this immense power that could just destroy you.
Sure.
That's what kind of gets me. Why are these symbols of resistance also so destructive? What do we make of that?
Well, I think it's a brilliant observation.
Oh,
and it really speaks to the ambiguity of this whole theme. You know, is it more noble to go down fighting, even if it means destruction? Or is there another way to navigate these burdens?
Yeah.
Maybe the real question is, can these characters even see another way? Their reactions are so different to their inheritance, yet they're all bound by this feeling of inevitability.
Right, like it's already been decided.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if any of us can outrun that.
Right.
Like it's
a question that has resonated, I think, with storytellers for centuries, haven't they? But, you know, these stories, it's interesting. They go beyond just presenting that dilemma. They actually explore the ways in which we grapple with it, you know?
Right, the choices we make.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of it.
Yeah.
And speaking of choices, another thing that I thought was so fascinating about what you guys sent in is how often appearances are deceiving.
Right.
I mean, we've got these characters that seem like one thing, and then, whoa, totally different.
Yeah.
Like that priest, Father Brown, in Wisdom.
Right.
He just seems so unassuming, but he's got this incredible mind, like he can unravel anything.
Well, what's so interesting about him, I think, is that it's not that he has some extraordinary ability.
Right.
It's his attentiveness.
Yeah.
He sees what others overlook.
Right.
Because he doesn't presume to know beforehand.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It's a good lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
Or a priest by his cassock, right?
That's right, yeah.
And then there's this futurist.
Right.
This guy Ezza in The Paradise of Thieves. Turns out predicting the future was just a really good cover story.
Yeah.
For a bandit.
Right, for a bandit. It makes you wonder about this idea of reinvention, though.
Yeah.
Is he drawn to a life of crime because it lets him craft a new identity, escape the expectations of his past, maybe even limitations? I don't know, it's interesting. Because we see that with so many of these characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget Dr. Hirsch. The Duel of Dr. Hirsch.
Yeah.
Talk about false advertising.
Yeah, really.
I mean, his methods are anything but scientific.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like everywhere you turn, someone is trying to pull the wool over your eyes.
It's true.
Which, you know, it can be a little unnerving.
Right.
Especially when you think about how obsessed our world is with evidence and proof and all that.
Right, yeah.
It makes you wonder, are these stories telling us that we need to be more skeptical? Like we can't just believe everything we see and hear?
It's a good question, and a timely one, wouldn't you say? I mean, in an age of deep fakes and misinformation and, yeah.
Exactly.
Cultivating a healthy skepticism is, I think, absolutely crucial. These stories remind us that things aren't always what they seem.
Right.
and that the truth, it often hides beneath layers of these carefully constructed facades.
Yeah.
But they also suggest that uncovering those truths, that takes more than just gathering evidence.
Yeah.
It takes an ability to read between the lines,
Yeah.
to notice these little subtle tells and discrepancies that I think betray even the most convincing performance.
So we can't just take things at face value.
Right.
But how do we do that? How do we become more discerning? How do these characters do it? I mean, what are they doing that we can learn from?
Well, it seems like one common thread is this power of observation,
Yeah.
of really paying attention. I mean, Father Brown,
He notices everything.
he's like a master of this. He sees the hair in the hat, the angle of the splinter.
Right. It's like he's got like a mental magnifying glass.
Yeah, yes.
He's walking around with.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not always about those big, obvious clues either, is it?
Right.
The doom of the Darnaways, understanding those local customs, those coast lights,
Right.
that was essential. It highlights the importance of context. Not just seeing, but understanding,
Yeah.
how these seemingly small details fit into a much larger picture.
It's not always about the big stuff, is it? Sometimes it's like a sneeze. Or, I don't know, someone really likes a specific type of salad.
Right.
And that ends up being the thing.
Yeah, that little detail, that's so key. Who knew being observant could be so practical, even in your everyday life, not even solving a crime or anything.
Right. It makes you wonder, like, how much are we missing?
Yeah.
Just because we're not paying attention.
Exactly. These stories, I think, are really good reminders to slow down.
Yeah.
And kind of savor those details. You never know that seemingly insignificant thing might unlock a whole new understanding for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll head to the salad bar next time I'm really stuck on something.
There you go.
But speaking of being stuck, there's this whole other layer to these stories we haven't even touched on yet. The hidden motives.
Right.
It's like there's always more going on than we initially realize. Like in the duel of Dr. Hirsch,
Right.
what seems like this senseless act of violence
Right.
is actually a part of this much bigger plan.
Yeah, a much deeper plan.
And that cursed man
Right. Right.
in The Curse of the Golden Cross.
Right.
And his behavior is so strange, but it's like he's got this whole other agenda going on.
Absolutely.
It's like they say, everyone has a story.
That's right.
We might think we know someone.
Yeah.
And then it's like, whoa, there's all this other stuff going on. And those hidden depths, those motivations, they can be powerful.
Oh, incredibly powerful.
Especially when you think about the lengths these characters go to, to protect their secrets.
That's right. And look at Sir Claude Champion. The crime of John Boullenois. I mean, he is so desperate to keep up this persona
Right.
that he's willing to do anything. I mean, really destructive behavior.
Wow.
It's like a cautionary tale, I think, about the price of fame and what people will do to protect their image.
So what hidden motives are out there, right?
Yeah.
In our own lives?
Yeah.
What are people hiding? And what lengths will they go to keep them hidden? Makes you think.
It does, it does. That's the beauty of these stories, though. They give us this glimpse into these complexities, these desires, fears, the secrets that we keep hidden.
Yeah. And it has been quite a ride, hasn't it?
It has.
Exploring these themes of legacy, perception, the power of observation.
We've been through it all, haven't we?
It's fascinating stuff.
It is.
I do have one more question, though.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about the weight of the past.
Right.
How those burdens, it's like you can't escape them.
Yeah.
But we've also seen these false curses.
Yeah.
These limitations that weren't real at all.
Right.
It makes you wonder, do any of these characters, Dr. Hood, the Duke, Admiral Pendragon, do they have the power to change their own stories?
It's the ultimate question, isn't it? These stories, they suggest that while we're shaped by our past, we are not prisoners to it. The power to break free, to make our own paths, it's within all of us. Whether these characters in particular can do it, that's up to you to decide.
That's a good point. A question worth pondering. And on that note, that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been great having you here. We hope you'll keep exploring these themes and all the amazing connections in the source material, because the best discoveries are the ones we make ourselves.